Brian Laverick-Smith, 30 years on hovercraft, and I think he's going to have something very interesting and possibly amusing to tell us.
Can I ask how many people have been on a hovercraft and travelled before? Gosh, all of you virtually. I know at least 4 or 5 have worked on a hovercraft before, so you know what a noisy old machine it is. Just a disclaimer before I start. This is a personal point of view, it's a pilot's point of view, and probably you might meet someone that's been on a hovercraft before that doesn't quite think the same as I do. But I fell in love with this machine 40, 50 years ago, and I had great fun on it. You probably remember the craft. 300 tonnes of craft, 20 tonnes of skirt, 4 of the biggest propellers in the world, the most unique form of transport you'll ever see. But why on earth put the name on the front? You know, you never see a car with car on the front, or a ship on the front. But one of the car deck hands, which Derek knows very well, suggested that it was the operations manager's idea to make sure the crew, after the party the night before, knew that they were working. And it wasn't far from the truth, because it's a very, very social atmosphere down there. Very social. Well, that's where she was that you all remember it by. But it started off in 1959 on the very first experimental craft that ever came into Dover. Christopher Cockrell was on board. He came in from Calais. Look at this plane coming over. Almost collided with the ship in front. And this video is 50 years old almost. The very first craft to land in Dover. Right opposite or next door to the Prince of Wales. That's Christopher Cockrell there. He was movable ballast, being shouted at by the pilot, which way to go and why. And there she is opposite the Prince of Wales, first came. But I first joined there in 1966 when Townsend, remember Townsend Torreson? Yeah, the old days. When Townsend Torreson had this craft, they're the Townsend Torreson ferries. This is in the Camber by the submarine pens, which are now no more, they're all built in. And that's where I joined the craft. And Townsend Torreson, in their wisdom, programmed that craft across the channel 3 times in the morning to Calais and back. And then a sandwich, then off to Hastings or Margate. It was an unmitigated disaster of ginormous proportions. It took us 2 months to carry 400 passengers across the channel. That's the same number you do in 40 minutes on a big craft. It was an absolute disaster. Look at the size of the craft. So small compared with the ferry of that age. We used up more of these sick bags than any other company in the entire world. We made more people sick for that period of time. It was a crazy idea. But they persisted for 2 months. Then they gave it up completely. And we ended up, recognise that place? Some of you remember. Margate. Name of the town. There's the craft. We ended up off the beach at Margate and Hastings, selling sandwiches, cups of tea, taking people over the waves at 60 miles an hour. Good fun, but not a good transport idea. So British Railways started up their craft in Cowes, running to Southampton, 10 miles away. We operated from West Cowes with a manufacturing base in East Cowes. Again with the N6, SRN6, Saunders Row, Nautical 6. And on there we used to have a very famous passenger, regular passenger. Yeah, bless his heart. We used to know a week before he came on board. We got a memo, we had to drive him quietly across because he was the governor of the Isle of Wight. He used to do his work on the way across, he'd walk off the craft, you'd salute him, and a week later you got a letter thanking you. I've still got my letter. And then 2 weeks later you got the accolade. You got 2 pheasants from the Mountbatten estate. An accolade. I took mine home to my wife, who's now sitting in the corner over there, And I showed them to her. These are my Mountbatten pheasants. And she said, what do you do with them? I said, well, I'll tell you what, I've been told you've got to hang them, yeah, then you pluck them, yeah, then you draw them, yeah, and then you cook them. And she turned around and said, you can take those away again, I'm not having those at all. And sent them back to Lord Mountbatten. Well, I gave them away, actually. A lovely gentleman, a sad ending to his life. Well, opposite our base was the manufacturing base in East Cowes, and that's where they had the big craft made. And when they launched the big craft, they named it after Mountbatten. That's called the Mountbatten class of craft. And when he went on board the very first day before they launched it, the managing director of the British Hovercraft Corporation was standing on the gangway waiting to welcome him on board. And as Lord Mountbatten walked up, he put his hand in his pocket and he got out 50p and he gave it to the managing director, and he carried on walking into the cabin. Well, the managing director scuttled after Lord Mountbatten and sat next to him and said, what was that for, sir? And he turned to the managing director and said, I really want to be the very first fare-paying passenger on my own holiday. So I thought it was very nice. So we bought one of those, didn't we? Big SRM4. They were named Princess Margaret and Princess Anne. We never called them that, did we? There's Derek's smiling. We called them Maggie and Annie. So who should launch it but Princess Margaret? Look at the dress and the coat, very dated. We thought we were the centre of the universe then. Ferry companies, the Channel Tunnel, the Sea Cats, the lack of investment for research and development, all those things just killed that lovely machine. It died there and then. Give it a bit more money, it would have rocketed along. Wasn't to be though. So, in 2000, some brilliant millionaire bought the craft. That's all, folks.
I'm in two frames of mind at the moment. I'm feeling a bit sorry for the second speaker having to follow that, but thankful that we've had such a fantastic presentation to kick off our winter season. I normally sort of start telling people to wind up after 3/4 of an hour, but I thought we must let it run.
Oh, a bit longer.
A little bit longer. I hope you enjoyed it. We're very thankful for Brian to come along and sharing some of the inside stories of hovercraft. And thank you for such an entertaining and informative session. Thank you.